Hey, welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycles on Shop Talk Tuesday. If it's Tuesday in your neck of the woods, hey, guess what? It's Shop Talk. And again, welcome to my garage. I'm a garage shop bike mechanic. Been in the industry over 35 years. Ooh, that makes me old. Any case, here I am, and this is a safe place for you and me and other bike shop people, as well as cyclists, and just a newbie to experience is more than welcome. This is a safe place for all of us to just hang out for a couple hours and talk about the latest of the latest and what's going on in our particular cycling communities, as well as the industry on top of everything else in between. In any case, just kind of a peel back insights of what a bike shop is like in the back, where we're just jibber jabbering, working on bikes. Today I'm going to do a little more working on bikes today as I'm talking, because I have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We'll see how that goes because I have stuff I have to get done, and I do not want to skip this opportunity to hang out with my community and be a part of all this. So without further ado, let's start with this Shop Talk Tuesday. In any case, it's been another wild week, and mostly it's been turkey driven because of Thanksgiving here in Colorado and the United States. And if you're outside the United States, you probably celebrated something like Black Friday or Cyber Monday. It's a thing, right? And we're all been kind of tired of seeing the emails and the specials and the deals and all that. And those who can bought stuff, and those who are just too nervous about it didn't. Or they were very reserved on their purchasing this last weekend. I would say probably it was a pretty not a banner time for a lot of retailers that leverage Black Friday, which is not a lot in the cycling industry, but there's a few that do kind of, or actually really rely on this particular time of year to push product out. Unfortunately, it's kind of, our state of the state's all just, it's a mess. It's just a hot mess. Let's just say it out loud. It's just a mess, and we're all trying to navigate it. And a lot of the shops in the off season, not those who are south of the equator, which is in season for them, which good luck on your season, and hopefully it's very fruitful for you. But all those that are just kind of sitting back and licking our wounds from the season and trying to figure out how to drive business in the winter to keep the lights on. We also have to think about the 3, the 6, the 9 to 12 month plan this year, next year, and possibly the year after if we survive all of this. And we will survive, a good chunk of us, and a lot of us have been around for a long time, so we're doing our best. And a lot of the smaller independent bike shops, which that's what I would be, is in the camp of trying to just navigate and trying to help and provide good services and opportunities and whatever else in between within our communities, cycling communities specifically in this particular realm. And also when you're looking at a different perspective, I'm gonna put that up there. It's the time of year of giving, right? And today is like Tuesday giving. A lot of people, or some people, have opportunities to be able to do donations, bike donations, money donations, whatever you need. There's a lot of need right now, and I implore you to think about it if you can. And those that can't, maybe you can physically, or dig out that old bike in the garage that you don't use anymore, dust it off and donate it, or give it to a bike shop that does donation cleanups. Like here locally in Colorado, or actually northern Colorado in Fort Collins, there's Realities for Children, and that's a nonprofit. They collect bikes. They have a big event in about a week or so. A lot of the bike shops locally are drop-off zones, so you drop off your bike, you clean them up. They put 10, 20 minutes, a couple bucks in it and some parts, provide these bikes for kids for this event that most likely won't have gifts for the holidays. So that's the sad truth and the reality of it. And for Realities for Children, they have this event amongst all these other events that are going on. I can tell you, most often than not, there's more kids than bikes that are available at those events, which is really breaking in a sense, because all kids should have a bike. This is a sense of freedom. So if you have the opportunity to donate that bike, donate some time, whatever you can do, that'd be very, very impactful for your cycling community or whatever community that you're a part of. That's awesome. And those bike shops and service techs and all those that are part of that, you're already probably part of doing something. If you're not, if you're new to a shop, this is the time to really kind of involve yourself in those particular events. You can just show up on the event day and go, hey, I'm here to help out. Sometimes, anybody at this point is going to take any kind of help. So in any case, just want to throw that out there as, it is the Tuesday of giving, and here we are, right? It's Shop Talk Tuesday. It'd be a shame if I didn't say something about it. It's kind of one of those things, if you're not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. So please help and support your local communities in your neck of the woods. In any case, thank you for hanging out with me. And we got like 3 main topics that I listed, which one is kind of shocking. I just saw it yesterday briefly, and I read into it this morning. We'll get to that in a moment here. But yeah, we'll feel free to chat and put comments in the chat. Say hey, hi from wherever you're at and where you're watching from. Appreciate the community feel. If you have any questions, a lot of people sometimes jibber jabber with themselves. In addition to, there's some bike shop people that are actually just kind of hanging out in the background and listening to us in their shop or what have you. And thank you for doing so. And I'll try to keep the verbal PG. So we're not dealing with it. You don't want to have somebody drop an F-bomb in your shop area and you're like, what? As you're trying to listen to this podcast. In any case, well, thank you for hanging out with me. And again, it's Shop Talk Tuesday. We've got some of you filing in as we speak. YouTube, Stabworthy. Thank you for joining us. Oh. That's interesting. Okay, that's a whole bunch of word salad. I'm not sure I can actually repeat that and it makes any sense, but thank you for joining us. In any case, hello from Iowa, Walker's Bike Shop. Hey, thank you for joining us. But yeah, it's trying to be like a safe place for all those. And in any case, have you heard? It's like rumor mill, that kind of thing. So in any case, we will talk about the first topic here first, but I want to bring this to everybody's attention. Those who need wheels for their bikes, new, used, and hand-built and so forth, and your shop doesn't have time to do it, or yourself are looking to refresh that old ride, this is something you want to take a look at.
Campagnolo Wheel Warehouse in California has an excellent selection of wheels to choose from that are pre-built, or also you can have them custom built up to various sizes. You can reach out to them directly if you have something unique like the 650 wheel or a different style hub. Therefore, it makes it an excellent bike wheel set company that actually provides good wheel sets without breaking the bank. You will find them being very trusted and true. They really hold up under a lot of different riding conditions and so forth. It takes the standard old school wheel building practices and puts them in a better format. But in any case, this is a wheel set you'll be really love to have. It'll perform for you for a long period of time, and the quality and the attention to detail is superb. You'll find information about this company in the description below, with also my personal coupon code. I hope you find a good wheel set that works for you.
Alrighty, yeah. That particular company, a lot of bike shops out there, you have your own sources of wheels and so forth, which is fine. I mean, we all go through QBP or JBI and that kind of thing with you in the industry. But if you're a shop like me that doesn't really have a lot of vendors, Bicycle Wheel Warehouse will they can get you wheels at a pretty decent price, and that really helps out the customer, especially if you're looking at bikes that are rim brake, which I have a mountain bike over here, which you may have gotten to see the picture in the shot here. That's going to be this week's project later on. I got this guy I'm working on right here. It's from Allied. It's full carbon, Ultegra Di2, so it's in for a whole thing anyway. Anyway, that's where we're at, kind of like the shop position on Tuesday. I've been doing a lot of cleaning on this guy. It had a severe amount of rust. It was in the area where it was close to the golf coast. Well, yeah, it the Gulf, and whatever call they want to call it this week. In any case, apparently the very salty, warm Caribbean style air just attacks steel and metal. So basically, I've been spending majority of the time surfacing the paint, cleaning it up, taking all the little bolts. I took some of the bolts out of the headset area. Instead of changing the position and all that, making marks, I took half out, put them in an ultrasonic cleaner, clean them with vinegar. Vinegar neutralizes rust. And then once they're cleaned, I repainted the ones that are in there now. And these are, the other half is out that need to be repainted. Same thing with the chainring bolts. They had a lot of corrosion on them. And then when I did the vinegar, which will strip the paint off of certain things, so keep that in mind. But it got rid of the rust. Then I repainted those as well. So I'll be reassembling that portion. The frame has been detailed and gave it a 3-stack layer of ceramic slam, ceramic coating. So with that, it was functionally fine. The customer was really disheartened because of the rust developing everywhere on the bike, and he stored it inside. So with that being said, he really wanted a full detailing, cleaning, and so forth. So in this particular scenario of a bike repair, it's not really fine tuning per se, it's really restoring and cleaning and prepping it and doing all the things you can to clean off the corrosion off the spoke nipples, and then once it's all clean and trued, add a layer of protective waxing or ceramic coating or so forth to keep it from doing that again. It's going to keep the bike here in Colorado, which is a lot more arid climate, so we don't have those issues per se that much. So when he goes down to that Gulf region area, he's just going to be transporting the bike back and forth instead of leaving it there sitting indoors. So apparently indoors it just gets eaten up. In any case, here we are. All right. Oh, John from snowy Minnesota. Alrighty, ready for fat tire season. Yeah, you guys just got some snow up there in chilly weather. We got attacked by the Canadian cold air. So, hi Canadian peeps. You can take your cold weather back, please. It's been chilly. In any case, here we are. I'm very fortunate. I do have a little heater running in the back. I do have an insulated garage. It doesn't have a full-blown heater, but it does face south and southern direction. In the sun, I was just noticing this morning that through the little windows of the garage, the light from the sun was almost to the other side where the wall was. So I really have a pretty good angling of warming, but yet we're still looking about 52 degrees inside of the garage, which I don't mind coolness because I'm moving around. That's why I'm standing up today versus sitting. And I do a little extra layering on top of my extra layering that I need to get rid of. But in any case, so many things we got going on besides working on this and working on that and everything else in between. A lot of bike shops are starting to do promotions. And I had somebody in the comments of one of my videos last week mentioning what should I do to prep my bike when I put it away for getting it ready for the next season. And the first one that comes to mind is get it down to your local bike shop and have it tuned up. Just even do a light polite tune-up, which is discounted. It's a great opportunity to get the bike fine-tuned, ready to go. So all you need to do when you pull it out of the closet, garage, wherever, just air up the tires, double check it, go for a ride. Because that's probably the best thing you can probably do is preparation for the next season. If you're going to store it, it's better to tune it beforehand, because when you pull that bike out and it's like, oh man, I forgot, it's not shifting very well or whatever, or the tires are flat or whatever the case may be, and then I need to take it down to the shop, those who take bikes to the shop, then you got to wait. And you're not the only one. So it's best to do it pre-season or end of season, which is it's hard. We're all creatures of habit, right? We're not going to forward think that. So this is your subtle reminder of get your stuff taken care of at the end of the season so it's ready for you at the first day of the season, whenever that first day is. And if you're just working on your own bike, that's kind of the thing I would do. If you're tinkering or working, clean the bike. clean the chain, do a drivetrain clean, do the tune-up, do the laundry list, watch a whole bunch of YouTube videos, learn how to do it. That's a great way to get your bike put away for the season. For us here in Colorado, very fortunate, we do have a lot of nice days in between. And I say nice, just the sun comes out and there's not that wind, it's good enough to ride. We don't have lingering snow here, so it doesn't stack up on itself, so it makes it a little bit easier to ride. Those who are like in Minnesota have to pull out their fat bikes. Also, Joe from Canada. Joe Channel, thank you for welcome. And yes, I'm sure it is cold. You have a whole new level of cold. But in any case, that's probably my best suggestion is to prep that bike for the next season. And by doing that, that's a great way of putting away and putting in storage so you're ready and you're forward thinking for the next season. Because, you know, it's going to be that early spring day or your opportunity and you want to pull that bike out and go for a ride real quick because it's usually, like me, time is very limited. So you want to take advantage of that. So do the work now when you really can't ride, and when it becomes season appropriate, time to do it. In any case, man, oh man. Vital Bike Chains. Hi. You're in warm area. We don't like you. I'm just kidding. He's down in the Florida area, but thank you for jumping in. Oh yeah, hurricane season. Well, you got the other issue. Thank you, Vital Bike Chains, for chiming in. Okay, if you have a season. Yeah, hurricane season. Would I remove the tire sealant? I don't know. You go into tubes? Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, tire sealant is another thing that some people may not know. If you have tubeless system and you have sealant, you're kind of in the know. But just in case you don't, that stuff needs to be refreshed every 3 to 6 months because it dries up inside the actual tire itself. Some people don't like having to have that general maintenance. Some people love to have the flat-free experience, flat-ish free, I would say, experience or lower pressure of tires. It all depends if it's good for you or not. But sometimes you buy a bike that might be brand new and it already has a pre-sealant system in there. Hopefully the people that sold you the bike give you the whole down low of what needs to be done, what's to be expected, and what kind of maintenance is going to be added to that. There's a lot of, did the industry do that to us? There is a performance factor to it. So I can't totally just be poo-poo caca on that, but it's in one of those things, that for sealant. Thank you for just pop that in my head there, Vital Bike Chains. In any case, let's talk about something. Who here, if you're watching this live, say I've heard or ridden Campagnolo componentry. Campagnolo's been around for decades, and they're one of many companies that are suffering through these crazy, bizarre times. And unfortunately, they haven't had a very strong few years. They're a company that's always been kind of like the solid workhorse of the European market. They're based out of Italy, and they've been around for a long time, and very many racers and teams over the decades have ridden Campagnolo. Primarily road stuff. They did have a little venture in mountain back in the 90s componentry, and it didn't go very well. But they retracted and went back into road. And you probably just heard they had a huge release on a brand new 13-speed drivetrain in the back. Yeah, but that's off of like the light bulb is the brightest before it goes out kind of thing. Unfortunately, they just recently, the last couple of years, they've had some pretty huge amount of deficit. Let me see if I can get up some numbers here. Actually, let me just pull up the article. It's in Bicycle Retailer, but also it references Velo, where I saw it on a Velo syndicate in Europe. And that one's a little more in detailed per se. Let's see if I can do a screen share here. So Bicycle Retailer, I'll put in a link in the below later. And actually I can put, let me just do this. I'll put the link in the chat now. So if you guys want to reference it later. So 40% of staff reduction. They're basically, they have about 300 employees and they're cutting 120 employees out. And this is in a small town in Italy. So it's not like, when you have a company like Campagnolo do cut like this, it's similar to us in the States having a big company that's driving the economics of that small town to really suffer. And what our suffer issues, between tariffs and everything here in the United States is trickling on, and our economical is global, where a lot of the bike industry is, for the most part, suffering. And if you're not part of the e-bike thing, and even then, the e-bikes are having a hard downturn themselves, because the ride of the popularity of e-bike, the ride of the wave of all the bikes for COVID and everything, is now coming to a not so subtle crash. And there's various other factors that are causing and driving these problems. They did get a big loan to help them keep going, but basically to promise that they're good on the loan, they need to restructure. In other words, have a plan of action to reduce costs of the company going forward, and that just puts them in a really troublesome position. Hopefully this new drivetrain, the 13 speeds, is really going to help them kick off and maybe recover a little bit. But that's like a hope and a prayer kind of thing, like a Hail Mary, unfortunately, because when they have those particular downturns, they had a lot of money and tied up, and they've been going downwards the last 3 years, and they're on confetti team. They've got back into the contracts for the 26, a couple teams for the Tour de France and race circuits and so forth for pro. I really don't follow that too closely because that's so far removed from my reality. I like watching it on TV, but it's not one of those things that I'm just going to dive into. I'm not an uber fan of the racers. I mean, I do appreciate and understand and give them their space, but that's not me, not my realm, that kind of thing. But in any case, I do perk up and pay attention to those because that's where a lot of these companies will show weakness and cracks, where they have to pull sponsorship and so forth. They actually invested into sponsorship into this next coming year, probably pushing their 13-speed system. Hopefully it gives them the shot in the arm that they need, and also kind of help with their restructuring and so forth. That being said, this is not a great time. I mean, this is where a lot of companies are pulling out anything they can that's new or flashy to try to drive sales. And yeah, you're like, why are they bringing out the super expensive componentry? Well, if you really think about it, the only market that's really going to buy anything and that has money is those who have money. I would say those communities in the cycling realm where they're recession resistant, or something of that nature, so they can weather the storm. There's some shops like PC Performances in that kind of realm area, although they're still affected by what's going on, but they have a high level of clientele, so forth around them. There's a couple shops in California that I worked with in Retail Toolkit where they were high end. I mean, they sold a lot of high end stuff. That customer is still kind of there. And when you price something new, they're gonna jump at it. Like, that's new. I have the money, whatever recession or down towards or whatever economical thing is not affected them to the point they still have money to spend. So that's the weirdness of it. Yeah, you can say it's the doctors and lawyers and all that, or high professional CEOs, but there's congregated areas where those bike shops thrive on that. That's helped those shops and helped those companies move that new product like Trek's Checkout, which is their new full suspension gravel bike, which all of us are going, that's kind of weird. But those enthusiasts that are into biking and that have the money, they're just going to buy it and try it, and they'll either like it, love it, or sell it, or get rid of it, or donate it. So therefore, that's why you're seeing the stuff being thrown out there, because they need to do something to help try to pump it. And this has always been the case. And looking at Campagnoli's downturn, it's just another of many companies that are suffering. And a lot of them are really close to their cards, to keeping their cards close to them, like in Vegas. But sometimes some of their hands are going to have to show. Well, reported companies like Merida, Giant, and Taiwan, which Merida owns 30% of Specialized Bike. So those reportings do get put out. They do put a positive spin on it as much as they can. Of course they are. But they do have to show the numbers. And the numbers have not been pretty for the last year and a half. So looking at Campagnolo, taking a huge investment, having it showing a loss in the last 3 years, it's just a snapshot of what a lot of major companies are actually struggling with and trying to navigate to get through what they're going through currently. Will they survive? Hope so. Those are a really cool line. I mean, Campagnolo is it's like you can't let that die. It's like a really nice, shiny, high-end, classic looking, been around. They're the ones that first, trademarked the first quick release back in, I think, the 30s. So they're a company that's been always innovative. And that's another piece too. You may go, that's funny, they're bringing out the 13 speed. Well, they've been the first one to bring out a lot of new stuff over the decades. I remember in the 90s, they were the first one to push the 10 speed thing. And we're like, ooh, 10 speed, what the heck's all that about? So they've always been the company that's always been pushing it to the next level to some degree. And they had, of course they've had their proprietary, hubs and all that, like some brands for sure. But Shimano and Campagnolo for decades were like the ones that are just battling out for market share. And bike lines would spec both on both lines and so forth through the 90s. And then SRAM came in. And that could have been, their version of Netflix. Just came in and it's just bashing stuff around and doing new. So now you got a trifecta, which, drives competition and ingenuity and, hopefully drives the price down, which doesn't seem to be doing whatsoever. But in any case, it's one of those things where competition is supposed to drive price down. Well, they're just driving more tech and the components are going up. But in some cases, you're starting to see some innovations coming out of Shimano, where the Qs and maybe some Di2 coming in for a little bit more price point, bikes, that kind of thing, which if you still look at it, the price point bikes are still pretty darn expensive, but they're not the $5,000 to $10,000 bikes, which they are today, which is in a whole nother nutshell in the weird reality that we're in. With these price increases caused by whatever you want to call it, tariffs, economical struggles, cost of living, all those things, when a lot of that gets bumped up, and you've already seen it probably in bike chains, tires, and what have you, those costs go up, the retail goes up, and after the price stabilizes and those companies find their cheaper ways of building those things again, the MSRP usually doesn't decline. So basically it pushes the bar up and it stays there. And the good thing is it does stay there for a while, and some things get overproduced and they go on sale, but the regular MSRP, the cost of the bike shops to buy this product, to fix bikes and what have you, unfortunately is going to go up, which also shrinks the margins for a lot of bike shops. So it's troublesome, and that's, it's pretty intense. And looking at Campagnolo not being in the news, except for like, ooh, 13 speed, cool, electronic shifting and all that. And I'd, love to get my hands on a pair just to ride it and see how it feels. But my wallet is definitely not that wide, or thick, or whatever you want to call it. Credit card balance needs to go towards other things like bike tools. All right, let's do some more shout outs in chat. Johnny Bike, Johnny the Bike Guy, SLC, Salt Lake City, if you don't know what Salt Lake City is. Too many business execs living large. Not mention the Tour de France and other companies paid business trips. Yeah, I mean, you can knock it as much as you want, and yeah, that's for the outside looking in, but they're there, and it's just that's where that environment's always been kind of like that. But I think the baseline of the successes of a lot of these companies is not the pretty and fancy and the expensive. It's for economical, community-based building products, basically entry-level stuff, because they've really eroded that out, and companies are more than happy to step in to fill that void. More on the professional level, like Poseidon Bikes, they're out of California. There's probably like 3 people that work there, but they're able to bring in gravel bikes under $1,000. I mean, it can be done. And then you have like the big companies like Huffy and International that do a lot of the Walmart bleed out bikes and so forth, or Ozark Trails, which is a Walmart brand, really kind of got a lot of people's intrigue. So those companies like Trek Specialized Giant, there is a market for them to tap back into, because they're still trying to fight over the top 8%, which is very weak right now, to say the least. In any case. Yeah, Johnny, definitely, they redefined and invented the derailleur, quick release, shifting. I mean, I loved their shifting when they first came out for the integrated shifting from the down tube to the actual lever shifters. It was like a 2-button system, which is also ratcheting front derailleur, which you don't have to fight the trim on the actual Shimano version of it. So they always had a little edge, but they just never got the popularity, and maybe the cost was a little bit higher or what have you. But it's always been good stuff and repairable and all that kind of stuff. So it's really good quality for sure. From an insider lookout, yeah, I understand your perspective, but you get to the point where you just have to stop being old and bitter, I guess. I don't know. In any case, but though I did send somebody your direction though. Johnny, somebody reached out from Salt Lake area, and I was like, hey, check out this guy. He's a mobile service. Hopefully he'll be able to take care of your needs. So in any case, try to help out a brother from another state. In any case, there. Oh, you worked out at Specialized for years? Lavishing trips. Yeah, remember when, just a side note, back in the real estate bubble in the United States in 2007, and all these CEO executives were flying into DC for a bailout on their private jets? Yeah, that went over well. So yeah, but in any case, there we go. That's the high level of, it makes me nervous. I mean, I don't want those companies to go under. They're, especially Campagnolo. I mean, they've been around forever, and they've, always kind of pushed they have a space. They have a space in the European market. They have a space in the road. They have a huge following community. There's a bike shop here local to me that they are the campy people. I mean, I barely even touched some of this stuff recently, and they are in it. So if I get somebody who's like has campy issues and so forth, I'm like, go check out them. They know it inside and out. They're riding it. They have the new stuff. They know how to work on the older stuff. And that's the thing. It's like there's so many different niche. Cycling is so damn big in the industry portion of it, and there's no one that can know everything. It's almost virtually impossible. And back in the 90s, you can kind of know a lot of it because it was a lot smaller. But now it's like quadrupled, 10x to 20x the intensity of stuff that's out there, the different markets, different models, different all the stuff. And for me, I'm really focused on more of the road and some more retro stuff. And that's barely still learning, day to day, learning something new. I can barely capsulize that. So when you're looking at somebody that does the whole e-bike thing, like Josh at Precision E-Bike in Fort Collins, or Aaron at Go Guava out in Pennsylvania, they've gotten into the e-bike realm. if I come across any e-bike issues or questions, then I'm going, hey, buddy, Aaron, Josh, help me out here. Either you take it and fix it, or you help me direct that, because there's so many different, and they could be literally across the street from me, and we would not be competitive in the sense that we would lose sales to each other. It'd be such a good, there's so many different levels and niches out there. So that's where I think a lot of bike shops are going to have to double down on their niches, work on their own personal branding, steer away from being the corporate stores because they made their own, and just kind of, cultivate their own cultures and cycling communities. So yeah, I've said it a lot before, and a lot of you are watching us in those particular cultures or affected by them as consumers or riders and what have you, and that's where we're at. But in any case, yep, that's where we're at. It's a hot mess. We're all trying to figure it out. I listened to a very intriguing podcast this morning from NBDA, National Bicycle Dealers Association. And I encourage you, I'll put a link in below to the actual podcast. It talked about e-bike stuff in the high level of bike shop owner perspective. And they talked about how much the used market is becoming a big thing for bike shops to leverage. And only 8% of the bike shops are leveraging used bikes and parts. That's a huge opening for a lot of people that have current shops to get into. I know a lot of you guys are already leveraging that, but that's where you can probably help a little safety blanket of cash flow, because those numbers are reporting between 50 to 60% of margin on the used products, where you're damn near not going to get any close to that. Even on your bikes, oh hell no. And which is, by the way, about 15 to 20% if you're lucky right now. And then on parts, that used to be Keystone at 50%. Now that's reduced to either 35 to 40. So it's rough when you're looking at new products, dealing with vendors, doing the contracts and all that. But when you look at the used world, that is, sprinkling money. And even though the demand has dropped down quite below what it has been, some parts are still selling. Why I know this? I'm in that field, like knee deep. I'm selling parts, I'm selling used frames, I'm refurbishing bikes, that kinds of things. And I've been doing it for years, so I have a pretty good lens on this. And I've been bucking up with all my other bike shop buddies that do higher volume and so forth, and a traditional bike shop. I'm like, you should look at used. And they're like, oh no, we don't have that. Basically they're too busy. And now all of a sudden they're not busy enough in those sectors. And they're like, oh wait, huh, what? Let's dive into this. So it's a great way to help Band-Aid, or however you want to tourniquet the bleeding of your shop and help you move forward into the next season. So that's my golden nugget, so that all those know. And listening to this podcast really kind of emphasize and give some little bit of numbers and worth what I've been feeling as a small micro level, which is actually being shown nationally and internationally. So, and here, luckily in the United States, depending where you live, of course, we have a huge volume of used bikes available. I mean, just massive. So that being said, any case, but yeah, used for the near future, it is definitely our future. Thank you for Walker Bikes Shop 8632. Hey, Vital Bike Chains, you still on? Give it a yep in the chat. Got something for you. We had a little partnership of, had a little conversation. I have a video. I'll put that in a link later of talking about wax chains and so forth. So if you're watching this, and if you're intrigued about wax chains, I mean, you bike shop people have already been doing it, but those who are in the bike mix and looking forward to refresh their ride or what have you, waxing a chain is kind of a pain in the butt. But once you get it waxed and get the manufactured grease off of there, which is not a great lubricant to begin with, just to prevent it from rusting between here and there, this is a great opportunity. And you can buy the chain with a little bit of an uptick in price, and it's already pre-waxed, and then you can keep re-waxing the process and so forth. But what this guy does is high level, next level, that kind of thing. So we got a little guess what? I got to move the camera. So why don't you?
Very popular chain process or waxing of Vital Bike Chains provides brand names like Shimano, SRAM, and various others to be cleaned in a high detailed 5-step process and then waxed to your professional level with either speed chip or endurance chip, which has been proven to have better performance and better lasting events and recreational riding. Find Vital Bike Chains has a variety of different, takes care of the messy process, and all you have is the clean wax chain ready to perform. Check them out. Discount code with a link below.
So there you go. If you're needing wax chains and you don't want to deal with the process, he has Shimano, SRAM, Campagnolo, KMC, and that's all he does is wax chains. So he has the level and the intensity that I'm trying to remove. I gotta work. I gotta work. So I'm gonna talk while I can still be able to see what you guys are doing. Or you can see what I'm doing and provide a chat so I can see what you guys are talking about. Oh. And since I am doing a vertical stream too, got to make sure I'm in the frame. Hi. Yeah, this is a bike mechanic trying to do YouTube. So anyways. So yes, side note, they're through StreamYard, which is the service I use to do these. If you ever thought about doing podcasts and so forth, this is a good platform to use or tool to use. There's a link in the description below for a discount, or at least to try it out for free. They have a version now where you can do vertical stream and a horizontal stream at the same time. So that kind of captures the new vertical stream popularity. And, oh, there we go. Okay. Lighting's not the greatest, but in any case. Here we are. So yeah, it's a shame to hear about Campagnolo. I mean, have any of you ride like any newer Campagnoli lately or any of that nature? Or has it all been just the older stuff? I mean, that's just a general question. I mean, or have worked on it. I mean, a couple of mechanics out there are watching, and it's like, has your shop seen very much Campagnoli come in recently in the last year or so? I mean, for me, I've refurbished a couple bikes. I've had it, but maybe 2 out of all the bikes I've worked on for the season. So that's, pretty small amount. So in any case, so the second topic, which it's a small topic, which is e-bikes, and it was part of. Well, it's actually just a search I did. I didn't see a lot on, there's always news out there, and it's really hard to filter what kind of resonates, basically what resonates with me, and what my community, at least I'm trying to figure out what it resonates with my community. But what we're talking about mainly is, with e-bikes, with the popularity of e-bikes, it's really becoming a huge commuter piece, right? And a lot of the communities, and there's some shops, obviously, that's what they've like doubled down on. That's what they do. I mean, whatever they started off with originally, they were doing service or whatever, and now they're doing a whole bunch of e-bike service, and all depends within your market, right? That kind of thing. And I'm trying to see which one of these will fit. So with that popularity, it's gotten super huge. Which one is not like the other? I haven't used that many of these. Okay, there we go. So yeah, the e-bikes, you see them on the bike paths and so forth, and you see them doing a lot of a lot of negativity, like the ones with throttles and go up to 28 miles per hour. That should be the cap, because if you go any faster than that, you got to figure the sheer mass of the bike and the rider is just going to be a colossal problem, and there has been, and there needs to be some regulations to it. But besides that, the popularity has gotten so much. What I saw in a news article, it's not new meters, 40, has gotten to, in New York City, which is known for having commuters, bike lanes, and all that. And matter of fact, a little side note history, one of the biggest bike booms, well, the first bike boom in the United States was based in New York, they made a bike path. And all of a sudden, you can ride your bikes. And that just blew up the market. Now, as one of the Google search raging bike booms of the first wave was back then. And, keep in mind, also, that kind of coincide at the same time that liberated, basically, it's really, you look at history and you're like, really? Is this really a thing back then? Well, when they made the down tube step-through frame, the women were able to ride bikes with dresses and gave them a sense of, they didn't have to rely on the main person in the household to drive them somewhere, and that gave them the ability to have freedom in running around for their own doing. So, in any case, I have to do this downwards here. So that was a boom, and then when you add the new bike path in New York City. So talking about New York City being an epicenter of cycling in the United States, or at least part of it anyway. So there's a lot of cyclists. You've had a lot of people who have done you've seen many either videos or movies of like the couriers running around on bikes and what have you. Now it's more like e-scooters and what have you. But on the bike paths there, recently there was a study that showed that 2/3 of the bikes on the bike paths in New York and New York City is e-bikes. That's a jaw dropper. You're talking about, that's like metropolitan areas are mirroring this across our country, where like Denver, LA, places are hard it sucks to drive, so they're just gonna ride their bikes, which we always known as cyclists and all that. But now with the e-bike component to it, now you're added a whole larger commuter base on that, which is good because it gives more emphasis on infrastructure for cycling. But which is bad is you're adding a whole new element of really, really fast, non-educated riders on bike paths, which is great to have them come on, more the merrier, but too much and adding a level of risk and danger. So there needs to be a little healthier balance to that, and how this came in so fast and heavy. I mean, here locally is not too bad because we have more space and the congestion is less. But I can only imagine that level of intensity if you're just like, I'm going to go for a bike ride, and all of a sudden you're swarmed by all the commuters or what have you that are within that area. So it's just kind of nuts to think. So yeah, they're here to stay. They're not going anywhere. And that being said, there's a lot of shops have converted or changed over, or now that's what they do. And more power to them, because there's a lot of shops that don't do that rely on those other shops to take care of their cycling community, like myself. I mean, I'm not going in that realm because it's a whole separate niche. It's a whole different thing. And I have, obviously, apparently, enough work where I'm at doing my thing. So, as long as there's more, I would say more regulations and education and training, either from riding to working on them, is probably the best. There we go. Get these on there properly torqued. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And that's like the big thing. And they're still there. And a lot of shops are converting, or like, Josh at Precision E-Bike, that's all he's done for the last 20 years is worked on e-bike type stuff. Went to school for it and everything. I have a video interviewing with him in my library, so check him out. And it's Precision E-Bike. In any case, yeah, torque wrenches, you got to put them back to 0 when you're done with using them, so you don't mess up the torque rating. Just FYI on that. And these are center locked design disc, which I've cleaned these up to get any kind of corrosion. I mean, even aluminum corrodes. If you don't know, aluminum will corrode. It's oxidation, I think it's called. not a scientist, but I try to play one on TV. And I married one, but she doesn't do research on this. She's a weather girl, or atmospheric science to be precise. But in any case, the alloy nipples had some corrosion and it topped the paint, which I'm not going to paint the nipples. Let's just put your head out of the gutter. I'm not painting nipples. But in any case, I did the chainring bolts and the anchor bolts for the stem. But in any case. Yeah, talking about the bike I'm working on, it really exposed. If you just join us, thank you for joining Shop Talk Tuesday. And I'm talking about topics as I'm working on bike because I just need to get this done. And this bike was close to the Gulf of Mexico, or Gulf of whatever they want to call it this week. And it was subjected to corrosion, saltwater air. So he doesn't like that. And I don't, he was surprised, and as well as he mentioned it, and I'm just digging into it. The corrosion points on this are like everywhere you don't expect it. It's crazy. Even on the back side of the Di2 front derailleur on the back plating, it's corrosion, like rust. So try to neutralize that as much as possible, and all that to get this bike in stellar form. But, oh yeah, that's what I was doing. In any case, that is where the shining light of the cycling industry, in the sense of e-bikes, really found a place and they're growing. But unfortunately, some of the companies are having a hard time. Rad Sports is one. They have some economical issues, big time. And then they had two of their batteries models are basically catching on fire. And I'm not an expert at this, but to what I've seen so far, it looks like there's, two reasons why these batteries are catching on fire. One is, maybe they're using the wrong plug-in for them. That's where you get the educational layer of people buying, especially used. It could be a problem. And the other one was, it could be a manufacturing problem. But the thing is these particular batteries, if they, if you ever taken one apart of like some of the, your walkie-talkie or whatever, you notice like it's not one big battery, it's like a slot of batteries in there. And the slot of batteries, there's like 5 or 6 of them. And I'm not sure about the e-bike ones. I haven't torn one of those apart, but apparently there's like a layer of different smaller batteries to make one battery. And when it charges, this is what I just learned, some learning, right? I learned something this week watching this one video where all those individual batteries within that one batteries have different rating of depletion. So some batteries lose their charge faster than others. And if you have that inconsistency within the full battery pack, when you recharge it, some of those other batteries that hit the full charge faster, deplete slower, get hot. And it just keeps high, goes higher and higher. And that's where, if you don't have that regulation, which I think they would see some safety protocol or tech inside there to prevent that from happening, the batteries overcharge and catch on fire. Highly recommended to not charge these things inside your house or in your garage or when you're sleeping in bed, so you don't catch your house on fire and die on the flames. But there have been some reported incidences of these particular 2 specific models of rad batteries, which is part of, it's not a recall because guess what? They're in such a financial trouble, they can't afford to do the recall. So there's no technical recall, but from the company, it's basically saying, get rid of them. Just take that battery and take it to a recycle center and make it go away because they're that dangerous. And this reminds me when those little scooters came out and like, oh, fun scooters, and it burned out like half of, a lot of Christmas trees back in the day. So therefore, there's a huge regulation, safety, all this issue with the whole e-bike realm, which has not caught up to the actual demand and how many units have been put into the market. So, yeah. So back into how popular they are, like I mentioned, New York City, 2/3 of the bikes that are being used for commuting or exercise or what have you on the bike pass systems there are e-bikes, and that's a lot of bikes. And we're talking about every metropolitan area is kind of seeing the same, or have seen the same increase. And when you add like the whole scooters, and everybody's seen like those Lime scooters or whatever in whatever city you're in, possibly been there, big metro areas, those little scooters, same thing, battery, and then the bike versions of those too. But yeah, so yeah, even though I don't work in it, I have to be aware of it. And also, being a bike shop owner, you got to check with your insurances and make sure, you know, some bike shops won't leave certain bikes overnight in their shop if it's a certain brand or brands that they're not familiar with or carry because of liability concerns. If the thing caught on fire and took out your shop, that'd be, you know, took out your business and your work and everything in one fell swoop, and also safety for your home and everything. So there's questions, right? So anyway, but you know, it's learning, it's education, and it's also a lot of products got pumped into the United States, like the cheaper versions of these, which may have not been so safe, which are not going through any kind of regulations or inspections or testing and all that, because they can slip them in because of the de minimis rule, where they can ship from any foreign country directly to the consumer without bypassing the whole customs piece of it, and anything under, I think it was $600, $800. So if you had those really cheap e-bikes, which fit in that realm, got delivered to your house, could be one of those that might be scary. And Rad is one of the bigger companies, and they're actually had an office in, I think it was Seattle, Washington. So they were a local-ish to the United States. But in any case, interesting. And I'm not sure, I have my questions about the whole throttle thing. Joe from up north, thank you for joining. Almost bought a used road bike 2 years ago from a shop that I worked in. Oh, nice. Full campy. Could not stand the red. Couldn't stand the color. Yeah. You know, the color of a bike might dictate what you want to buy or not buy. That's that's pretty sure. GPAS, thank you for joining. Oh, you're in a frame building class, 2 weeks, and vicious cycles. Oh, I've heard about that. That sounded really cool. One of these days, I mean, that was kind of like one of my pipe dreams of, you know, build your own steel frame. I think there was one down like in Phoenix or in Arizona somewhere. You spend 2 weeks and they teach you how to TIG weld the frame together and that kind of thing, and make up your own fun thing. That'd be really cool. I mean, just for fun experience, you know, guys weekend or something, just hang out and do something like that. Well, hope you enjoy and have a good time of learning how to weld, and put those practices into your business. I know you have a shop up there. What part of I think you were in New York. Are you in New York City or in New York State? So yeah, let me know. Might be coming that direction here soon. Yeah, thanks for chiming in there, Johnny. Yeah, it's talk about customers all day long about battery safety and management. And you know, bigger brands, it's usually a little more vetted, but you never know. Hunger Plunga 3755. Thank you for chiming in. Thank you for joining the live stream here. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm still on an e-bike myself, but I do see the benefits of the e-bike for those. But for the full throttle ones and so forth, that's a whole new thing. And there needs to be speed regulations on a lot of those. There's one guy that I'll ride on the bike path here, and I don't see him every time I go riding. He's like hauling butt on this thing, each direction without a helmet. And he's going so fast that if something happened, like either to his bike, like a flat or something like that, or a squirrel jumps out, or a kid, or unanticipated, he goes by you so fast, like he doesn't slow down around people. He's gonna clip somebody, and at some point, and he's gonna get hurt, and he's gonna hurt somebody as well, because what he's riding is not a very light e-bike. It's a tank that has high power to it. So, in any case. Oh, yeah. Greg, thank you for joining. Are you joining us from Vietnam? Nice. That's awesome. My reach is getting further. Thank you for joining the Shop Talk Tuesday. Hopefully, if you haven't watched this before, it's me about jibber jabbering about bike industry stuff and bike stuff, and it's hopefully a safe place for those who are bike mechanics, as well as shop owners, as well as just the average rider. I mean, this is where hopefully a safe space for all of us to get together and talk about and be a part of it. But it seems to be a little more of a trend recently of more shop people, smaller shop people. I mean, not saying you're small. I'm saying your shop might be small. No, little giants? I don't know. Something better than that, right? So, any case. So I found a little tech tip here. So a lot of you have joined the ranks of ultrasonic cleaning parts. And with those adventures of ultrasonic cleaning parts, you realize that the ultrasonic cleaner will strip finish off of certain things. Especially when you're working on a cheaper bike or a less expensive bike that has this is not hairspray, it's paint, and I'm talking about this. I'm just stirring it up. And I've noticed that like a chain guard on a front chain ring, right? And you put an ultrasonic cleaner, and all of a sudden it just disfigures the color, or it distorts the color to some weird color that's not black. So I went to my local Walmart, which is technically a quarter mile away from my house. And this reminds me of the stuff of farmers paint for like tractor parts and so forth. Little side note, I grew up on a farm. So the bike farmer, I got him beat because I've lived on the farm as well as worked in bike shops. So jab. In any case, this stuff here works great on mixed materials, and it's weather resistant. It's designed to be like outside. It's not like a dainty paint. It's not going to discolor or paint and all that kind of thing. So I got, if you weren't catching this before, ultrasonic cleaning bike parts. Some size strips it. This one was affected by corrosion. Not sure if these are alloy. It might be, yeah, these are alloy bolts or stem bolts, right? And they had that white fuzz, which is oxidation of that's how aluminum kind of corrodes, kind of does. And they looked really ugly. And this guy, I put this in a nice way. He's a really nice guy, and he has really nice bikes, and he likes his stuff nice. And he likes me detailing his other bikes, and he had this one that was exposed to rust and very salty air, and he wanted the rust to go away as much as by detailing. I can't get all of it, but what I can, I'm going to do the best. So I took these bolts off, and to neutralize rust, I use vinegar. There's other products out there, but that's kind of like the safer, easier way to throw an ultrasonic cleaner. You put this in a jar of vinegar and throw an ultrasonic cleaner. The rust disappears, but it'll take off the finish. So it took off the finish on this. So my little harebrained farmer fix-it idea. So you just take a little piece of paper, you make a little pile of paint, a little drip. And I used to go to, another side note, may not know, I went to art school for a while when I was younger. So I'm an artist. So I was actually told my tune-ups are like works of art. So you take this, you have a little puddle of it, and you have a little brush, and you basically just repaint the black surface area of the bolt. And I've done that with chainring bolts. And back to what I was talking about, the chainring cover. You unscrew that off. Now I just unscrew it and take it off, then put the whole crankset into ultrasonic cleaner. Then I clean and wax the chainring cover, because those things get brittle of exposed to too much sun, because they're not UV protected by any means. So this way you can get like the inside of the bolt and the outside of the head. I'm just painting the head, not the threads, of course. And then I just let it sit there and dry. Then I proceed to the next one. So I had to do the chainring bolts on this one, and also these bolts here. So, I mean, stem bolts are going to be right in his face, I figured as much as I can in the cockpit where he's looking at, completely cleaned up as much as possible. I should probably put this down here. So, that kind of thing. Got him new bar tape and new rubber tires. That is. Tires, that is. So got that guy. I mean, I could have dipped it technically. So this paint's worked really well of covering up, and it's a little bit thicker, and it does have the weather resistant qualities to it. So looking at bike parts to finish. If you had engraving into your, like the Shimano old engraving, that kind of thing, you probably use this too to fill in the lettering, and it would hold up pretty well. I'm sure there's I know there's specific paint for that, but I'm just, attention to detail, spend a little extra time on this guy's bike, because, he enjoys riding it, and it's his out-of-town bike. So it's one of those things that, well, number one, typically I have another customer that has a house in another state, actually in Utah, and he has bikes there as well as here, and once in a while he'll bring them back, and I had a fleet of them for about a month. He swamped me, which was great. He's like, here's a whole bunch of bikes for you to tune up. Let me know when you're ready. I'm not going back to Utah in a few months anyway, so when you're ready, I'll pick them up, and we'll eventually take them back. So he got those bikes tuned up and refreshed for his second home. So that's all the fun stuff there. So that's the last bit that I needed to paint. I mean, the alloy chain rings on this are fine, but yeah, this stuff's, it's not too expensive. Rust-Oleum, Farm, probably Google that, Impellant. And, it works on, if you did a muff up on an ultrasonic cleaner and you need to repaint that, take a piece of cardboard, go in the back alley and give it a nice little coating and make it look pretty. And and then just don't say anything. No, just kidding. But I've had fun. But also ultrasonic cleaner, the temperatures can go pretty high, up to 50 Celsius. So we want to be mindful of that. If you start using it and not knowing what it does to derailleur parts and so forth, there's a couple things that could react to. If you're worried about any finishes and so forth, usually if you do, I use Simple Green in my ultrasonic cleaner, and I only do like 1 part to 8 parts water. That's very diluted. I only concentrate it in a small jar when I'm trying to get certain parts like a chain or something that really get it clean. But other than that, everything else is just a light polite. And if you're worried about the actual surfaces being changed, or coatings wiped off, just go with room temperature. Don't put the heating element on, because I found that it'll still clean to some level, to as much as you need it to, without compromising that. But sometimes you need the heating element to cut that stuff off. But in any case, that's what, that's my experience as an ultrasonic cleaner. Hopefully I'm not glitching anyway. All right. All right, just gonna check in the chat here real quick. In my youth, company was King, Shimano, Enduro, slowly, October, much of the market. Yeah, going back to you, David, 3868. Yeah, depending on your market, my market here in the States, in Colorado, Shimano is more of the leading componentry for road, although early, like high-end stuff, my buddy John Bradley, he would probably say Campagnolo was probably more known in the 70s and the 80s, and Shimano just started getting, reputation of higher end stuff like Dura-Ace and Ultegra. And Dura-Ace stuff is still nice. Today is even really nice stuff. But I mean, back then it was like artwork, but they were chasing after Campagnoli, and because the road market was more European centric at the time, and depending where you were living, you might have seen a lot more Campy than you did Shimano product. But I think they were having. I think what it is kind of like the Netflix effect with Blockbuster. If you know anything about videos, if you're that old, here in the States, that SRAM, I think, was the Netflix version of Campagnolo. I mean, it's like, this company is coming in and then leave the market and made cheaper, and then all of a sudden you've seen the mountain bike version of SRAM products from Grip Shift and Avid and all that, and they also have RockShox and Zip and everything else, kind of really dominated the US market, and then that bled over. I'm not sure how the popularity was of currently in the last 10 years in Europe, Campagnoli per se, or Asian market, or Australian or South American market, but here in the States, they've kind of fallen off the radar. And you see once in a while more of niche brands or custom builds with Campy groups, but not necessarily OEM from Trek or Specialized. So, and that's the biggest volume in Giant. They're the biggest volume of bikes coming in. And you never saw, of course, you'd never seen Campagnoli on department store bikes. So there you got. So it's more of your upper end high niche level. So hopefully I can answer that, at least my perspective on that, David. Thank you for chiming in, though. Appreciate it. All right. But Campy is strong and it's workable. It's great stuff until it's not. Well, it goes along with a lot of things. But then it is rebuildable, where a lot of Shimano stuff is like pre-built at the factory like a watch, and you could not take it apart and put it back together. It's almost impossible, if not impossible at all. Yeah, I remember Hey, you remember Blockbuster? Oh, so Joe, there's a connection here. Just a heads up. Yeah, so you had a former girlfriend that worked at a Blockbuster. My wife used to work at a Blockbuster for a few years back in the early 2000s. So she knew the nitty gritty of Blockbuster, and she was there when the transition from VHS to DVD. Anybody know what DVD is? It's not Dungeons and Dragons. Oh yeah, that puts me in a time warp. Any case, woo, woo, yeah. Going back to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure kind of thing ish. So yeah, I did a lot of work on these parts to clean them. Once I got them clean, I put a lot of wax and ceramic coating, so those doing the frames and so forth. So this is going to hold up really well. Also have a waxed pre-waxed chain. I get Connex because they're a German steel, but what's really nice about Connex is their link, power link, the removable link on these. You don't need a tool to take it on and off. And they are advertised to be reusable, where SRAM and Shimano like to say they're not. You're supposed to buy a new one each time you want to take your chain off. So, whatever. Bikemechanic's been reusing those power links unofficially for decades. So, anyway. Oh, man. All right. We're out of time. Whoa, man, time's flying. I'll have to get the chain rings here in a little bit. I did put the last coating on it. I didn't do the knockdown on the frame yet. Let me show you. Well, this frame, Tripod stuck. Earthquake, sorry. Hopefully you're just listening and not watching. Anyway, ceramic coating, this particular type leaves a haze when it flashes, and what they call flash, when it gets to that point where it's dry-ish. Some brands I've used Adams polish before, where the flash looks like an oil slick, and then you got to knock it down before it looks like a smeared mirror. This stuff doesn't do that, so I kind of partial to this, and it is technically stackable. So you put on a coat, and you let it sit for 4 hours plus, and you put on another coat, and you do a knockdown, and then 4 hours plus. So this is on its third one, and now I'm doing the knockdown. I did it a couple hours ago, and when you do the knockdown, it's basically you're taking a fiber cloth like this, and you're wiping off that film. And once you feel that film tug at first, and then it gets like super slick. Well, what that is doing is putting a waterproof barrier, or water-resistant barrier, let me just put it that way. Also a UV protective barrier on fancy paints. So it's the same product. So it is a product from the auto industry, and that's where you get the best of the best, right? I mean, they've been doing it for years and tests and studies, and it's a very competitive market. So the quality product out there, probably in the cheap stuff, probably does really well. It's one of those things I've added to my tools and stuff to do. But here's the thing: when you get this, can't do a close-up. What it does is gives you a high concentration of beads on water, and prevents that water from penetrating the microsurfaces of the actual paint or the clear coat. What this is doing is giving it a protective barrier, right? So when you get kick up from riding in the rain or dirt or what have you, or mud, it doesn't really stick to the paint. And in this case, you can see the water drop. Well, maybe you can't see the water drop, but it's really high concentrated water droplets. Well, first, it's really easy to wipe off. Secondly, though, if you have your mountain bike or gravel bike or a road bike and get in some really gruddy riding, you do a little spray, a rinse, or a low pressure steam water, and not high pressure, because you don't want to do that anywhere on your bike. That'll help just the contaminants just slide off that paint, and hopefully if I did the componentries and the wheels, it'll slide off the wheels, and so it makes it a lot easier to keep clean and get rid of that contaminants. And after that big muddy cruddy ride, it'll definitely clean up for you. But in any case, so that's part of many things that I've done to this bike, and more of a high level detail paint and protected and all that stuff. Everything else is just your general technical stuff, like replacing the chain, tires, bar wrap. But the removing of the corrosion was the heavier lift on this one, which took me layers of time to do. So I've had this bike in my shop for a little bit to get to that point. Plus holidays hit me. So it's kind of like set it aside and do this, what have you. But in any case, that's where we're at on that. But yeah, it's like it's added in a whole new level, especially those who, you buy yourself a $5,000 bike or $10,000 bike and you have a really, really fancy paint job on it. That's a sign of protection. You don't have to do the whole thing. It's kind of like wax chains. You strip everything. Well, with bikes, you do the detailing to it and so forth. But what you can do, and this is one of many products out there. This is Color Crush from Lithium. And what you're looking for is the SiO2. That is the ceramic coating material inside that. This is designed as a refresher, but you can technically, instead of doing the whole ceramic coating bit, you can just clean your bike really good. Or if it's really new off the showroom floor and you don't want to do that, you spray that on a rag, or a fiber cloth rag anyway, and then then you apply it onto the frame, and it gives you the similar qualities. Not as strong as the ceramic coating, but it gives you that ceramic coating protection, so forth. Tech tip of the day there. That's if you want to get into that fancy of cleaning your bike, that kind of deal. Also, friendly reminder, like and subscribe if you like contents like this. Smash those buttons. Helps promote me and stuff. And so forth. So I'm going to do these. Yeah, I'm going to do that a little bit later. In any case, I did have a third topic to talk about today. What was it? This is an interesting one. It's kind of a aftermath of a Google search from AI search, and I don't think a lot of people are getting laid off because of AI, which is kind of scary and dumb if you really think about it. Because if you ever do like a image builder on AI, I've done a few for bikes just for fun, and it puts cranksets on weird sides and multiplies the person in the frame. And my wife brought up one for like a company laid off a whole bunch of architects, and then they had to show an architect replaced AI version, and the architect layout from the AI had like, it was like a Picasso version of a house, like 18 bathrooms and bathrooms without toilets, or it just weird. It's like, like again, I mentioned before, if you were listening, I went to art school, studied a little bit of Picasso, abstract paintings, right? What the abstract painting, what you're really looking at is like that wine glass, for example. Well, the bottom of the wine glass, instead of being bottom circle, it's now three-dimensional, or not vertical. And then you take the tubing side and do the side. It's just like taking the angles and painting those one angles and putting in different perspectives. So you're looking at that wine glass from 8 different perspectives. So once you understand the concept behind the abstract, it's kind of cool. But when you're looking at the abstract AI version of a house diagram that you're thinking to have an architect done, that you should have been human, or at least double checked by a human. So I don't think we're quite there yet. So don't have your AI architect engineer 3D printing your titanium frame. That's going to be a weird one. I can guarantee you. Then be like, what's it sized for? What's the head tube angle? Do you write it backwards? Anyway. So the other topic, manifesto. There was a manifesto that was released. And before I do that, talking about AI and who laid off a whole bunch of people. Shop on Amazon. I do have a Amazon store, like the latest pick, basically, of products that are on sale, that kind of thing, and various other parts and tools and so forth that I suggest using within those particular categories. Check that out, go through, and even if you don't buy the product that I suggest and you find something else that fits your needs better, or your grocery list, or whatever you end up buying, I get a little kick. So that's a good opportunity for you to get something, and I get something that helps support me doing what I'm doing. It just goes to, if you can't beat them, join them, right? There's a whole philosophy that I'm coming up with that you too, as a regular bike shop, let's put it this way. Back in the 90s, when Performance was selling parts below than what we can get at bike shops, and customers were coming in and bringing those parts for us to install, back then, bike shops had a huge negative reflection of those customers, made them not feel welcome at all, or just angry. It was really hard not to be miffed about that. Because in your head, you're like, well, you're supposed to try to help support me. But, if you think about it, if Performance by then back was like, hey, if you promote our stuff, we'll give you a percentage kickback and you get money too, would that be a win-win? They never did that. But here's an opportunity where some bike shops could leverage Amazon stuff that they're not going to sell anyway, but they've actually used or promote or what have you, and still, do reviews or what have you on those products to actually, and I know, some of you are like, that's just, nature of the beast. Well, how about that nature of the beast that you can, leverage, this is where the YouTube realm is, right? The social media influencers, that's where they get their income. That's what's driving them to do all this and driving content and making that kind of thing. So it's kind of like a sidebar. It's like, you can leverage that. Why not? If he pays for your electric bill, why not? That kind of thing. And for me, I don't have vendors, so I'm not like, I'm a different anomaly of a bike shop, that kind of thing. Plus, the social media part is actually taking over too a little bit. Good, bad, or otherwise, but here I am, and you're seeing me on YouTube, so something's got to be working, right? So a manifesto, this is kind of funny. Not funny, really. It's a community manifesto, calls for price accountability. A manifesto titled, "Prices in the cycling market have crossed the point of absurdity." Okay, there's a lot of you, me, everybody else in between have just kind of gone, why are they so expensive? And there's no kind of like clear justification of these prices being so high. And some of it may not resonate, some of it may resonate, but being in industry for 35 years, I've got a little bit of insight, especially with talking to my friend Bradley about being on the wholesale side of it and so forth. So majority of the companies in the United States that manufacture bikes that either sold in the United States or everywhere else, most of that product is built overseas, somewhere else other than here. Reason being, because they can do it a lot cheaper and a lot faster. Bottom line, business to business, dollars to donuts, that's what it is. Well, they do some stuff in the United States, like assembly or what have you, or customs and all that. That's great. But bikes are a lot of parts from a lot of different companies. So to build this collage, like your abstract perspective of Picasso piece, is put together by all these different perspectives and what have you. What makes it so expensive, I don't know. But I do know there is a cost to have the engineers, have the architects of building, designing the bikes and so forth, and testing and so forth, gives that to the manufacturing layer where they have the frames built, the componentry built, all the small bits and parts, the wheels, the tires, and all that stuff, all come from different factories to collage this one bike. Right? Even the raw materials are not forged in the bike frame, at Merida or Giant. It's the raw materials built somewhere else too and sourced from somewhere else too. Guess what? There's tariffs that follow that whole train. So tariff, or costs, and various other things. Until that bike is completed. And once that bike is completed and put it in a box and put it on a boat in a container to go over the seas and hit the ports of the United States, it's amazing. It only takes about 3 or 6 months. Right? It's like, that's pretty amazing. They can do it in that fast of a frame with all those technical aspects of it. Well, from the design part of it, it takes a little bit longer. It's a year out. Okay, so you would think, the reason why we shifted majority, if not all the manufacturing to the foreign countries, because as they do a higher volume, and the higher volume, for example, Giant and Merida makes bikes for several other different companies, so you're getting kind of a lower pricing volume discount. Well, they've been making carbon frames and more efficiently for the last 3 decades, and to the point where the volume of the carbon manufacturing has probably brought the price down some huge. But here's the tricky bit. Not all carbon frames from each manufacturer is the same. You got a little bit of influence or a lot of influence from each one of these companies saying, I want my head tube to be this angle. I want my seat tube to be that angle. Oh, I want these wall thicknesses to be this. I want to use this kind of carbon and so forth. Yep, there you go. So even though they're making a ton of carbon frames, but they're all a little different. Same thing for aluminum, same thing for chromoly steel, same thing. That's what makes the brands unique. They have to make it different, because if you had the same exact frame, a Giant, a Specialized, a Trek would be the same damn bike. Why would you buy one versus the other? Because of the geometry differences, is what they use and angles and all that are put into it. That's what makes it different. But here's the thing. The componentry, Shimano, it's the same stuff that gets slapped on everything. SRAM, Campagnolo used to be, and various other bits. So those are more standardized, so those prices should have gotten down. So the frames are up here, Components should be a little bit lower, but they're not. And you got all these little fingers. Every time it hits a port or a warehouse or whatever, it gets a dollar amount. They got to make a profit. Each one of those layers it's an onion. Every one of those layers of the onion has to make a profit. So then it gets to the manufacturer, or like Trek or Specialized. And now they have the direct-to-consumer portal, as well as Canyon, which was the start of, I wouldn't say the start of direct-to-consumer, that was Performance and Ashbar, and probably Woolworth back in the day was original for that. But that direct cuts out one more layer of markup, the independent bike dealer. Well, the independent bike dealer used to make between 30 to 35 points per bike. So that from $100 to other $70 was the cost of the bike. And that was from the wholesaler. Then Trek's cost is probably a little bit lower than that, so they have to make a profit. And then the company that assembled and painted all the bikes and all that, like Giant or Merida, that's another layer. Then the company that builds all the parts that goes on it, that's another layer. And then it goes all the way down to forging and digging the metal material out of the dirt. So those are all those dollars that go up to that price. It's amazing. Yeah, we can do that. Manufacturing is amazing. It's just really cool stuff. But from forging it from Bronze Era to having a bike that runs efficiently, and all the insurances and the promotions and marketing and all that, not saying there's a few people in those industries are getting fat cats. They are, absolutely. Not doubting that whatsoever. But when you're looking at high volume manufacturing, it's not like we're making a coffee cup and making 1 million of the same coffee cup and just putting a different sticker on them. That's why bicycles are more expensive. It's still technically a small market compared to all the other crap that's out there for retail. I mean, just think about it. Like between, coffee makers to whatever high volume thing that's out there. I mean, the industry is, cycling industry is relatively still small comparative, but it is very affected by all these things that are going on in the market, like, tariffs being putting on materials, or what country that part got made to put on this bike, and how to get it shipped around, and warehousing, and all those costs. And then you have on top of that an economical environment, which is really affecting all that. Yes, do prices need to come down? Sure. Maybe they don't need to be that complicated of bikes. Maybe you're providing a bike that has a decent spec, decent frame, not overly done. They can do mass market on it, and provide a lower price point for those who just get into cycling. I mean, yes, they have driven the price down on full carbon bikes down a little bit lower, but does it always have to be a carbon frame? I mean, the market's always been pushing that. So I'm on the bandwagon of bring steel back. I mean, it's a great resource. It's a lot cheaper to make. It's easier to work with, and it's cheaper overall. And then it's also sustainable in the sense that if that frame goes bad or what have you, either can be repaired. Well, carbon can be repaired too. But if anything, it'd be melted back down and remade into a new bike, or wherever else, your oven or dish pan or whatever. But at least it could be done, sustainable, reused. And I ride a lot of steel bikes. And honestly, the fun factor is no different between a carbon and a steel. There is different feel of the ride, but my fun meter is just the same. So quite honestly, the fun meter and the exercise meter, I'm too chubby to go worried about my speed or my average speed. I'm just more about the experience of having a good time and watching out for that damn dingleberry on the e-bike that goes way too fast. But other than that, though, I'm just having a good time. Isn't that about 98% of the market out there? Really? So, yeah, you can bring the prices down, or, my goodness, I mean, if you have the income and you have the money that you're like, and justified, like, I want to spend $3,000 to $4,000 on a bike. I want to get a nice bike. I would say don't go to the cookie cutter, Trek and Specialized and Giant. Those are cookie cutters. They're just doing mass volume. It's what they do. I'd go find those more of a niche line, like a Fairlight in England, or I don't know if you can get a Moots, but maybe a Lightspeed or a Linsky. You can get a nice titanium. Shoot, some of the Linskys are on sale right now where you can get a Linsky full bike within that price range, or get something a little more tailored, or a nice high-end steel that can be built, like the Made show. Look up Made show in Portland. Then they'll have a laundry list of different handcrafted small, they're not manufacturers. They just make steel frames or titanium frames, or some of them do just carbon as well, if you want to go that route. But if you're spending that much money, you can get everything customized to fit you correctly, which brings you to the first step of all bike major purchases, is getting a fit. It does sound expensive, $150 to $300 to get a bike fitting done. But once you get that fitting done, then you can be about 99% confident that that Fairlight that you ordered that's coming from England is going to fit you like a glove. And what stem and all those bits, and it's going to save you that much money doing all those retrofitting pieces again. Okay, you're like, you lost me there. Okay, I lost myself there. Okay, fit is the most important to a bike. That makes your experience riding a bike the best. Fits you the best, less pain, better riding, all those things, right? Well, you buy that, pay for that fitting. It's a fitting service. It's a technical skill. There's a guy I think here in Fort Collins, Colorado, that charges like $150 to $200. Apparently has a really good reputation. You can get in there. They have a pre-thing belt. You can bring in a bike or bring in they have a pre-adjusted bike system that you sit on, and they go through all the angles and your body geometry and all that. And they'll tell you the frame size, the stem length, the saddle, the bar width, all those things, and what kind of riding you're doing. Yeah, that comes with a price tag. Let's say you paid $300, okay, for that fit. All right, say you didn't do the fit, and you walked into a Trek or Specialized store, and that salesperson goes, yeah, that's the right size for you. They don't do the fitting. Well, Specialized charges for it, but Trek, they're like, out the door you go. Got my new bike and go for a ride. Oh, wait, the bars don't feel quite right. Maybe I need to get a newer bar. Oh, the stem's not quite right. Need to get a new stem. Oh, the seat post is not, the saddle doesn't fit quite right. Or the crank arm lengths are not quite, like all these little touch points. 3 touch points. 3. Seat, that's your bum. Handlebars, which in stem, which is your gripping. And then you have your feet, shoes and so forth, which the fitting does help out with shoes as well, and the cleats and the installation of that. Okay. You could go down the rabbit hole, trial and error over time, and spend twice as much it would cost you in all these extra bits that you'd pay for on a bike, that if you got that fitting right out of the gate, you can negate all those expenses. So it really pays for itself. So you get that custom frame, you get the parts that actually fit you, the right sizes, and bam, you got the perfect bike in the box or put together by a pro mechanic, like a guy like me, or a gal that looks a lot better than me, and we'll get that bike rolling and custom fit, feel, and the best ride experience possible on that bike. So there you have it. Spending $3,000 or more, that's the direction you need to be going. And you can take the Trek and do that if you want. If you really want that Kool-Aid or that brand, that's fine. Everybody has their preferences. But I'm saying, like, if you're going to try this, something, if you're going to spend that much money and you justify doing that riding, start looking for some different kind of fun things. Because if you show up at a group ride or what have you, and they're like, whew, that's a nice Moots, or check out what's that Fairlight? That's kind of cool. And you go like, hey, they do all this cool steel Reynolds 853 tubing and changes and all that kind of like Klein concept back in the day and doing all sorts of cool things. That is it. And I tell you, once you get a bike that fits you like a glove, it is a game changer. It is most amazing thing that you like riding. That just takes riding to a whole new level of fun, like really fun. You don't have pain in your pain points. Your ride will go longer. You don't have like less numbing. I'm not saying all of it's going to go away, but they can help you get to a better place so your riding is a lot more enjoyable. And that's what it's all about, right? Having fun. So fit, yes, is the most important thing to any bike. And there lies the other complicated layer to all this. The frames all have different geometries because that's the only thing that makes them different from each other. So one frame geometry might not fit you better than the other for brand specific. Case in point, Fairlight. And I have a video on them with John Bradley. It's a great conversation with him, so watch that video. But that particular brand of frames, they'll have one size, and they'll have a different geometry for the same size for a different body type. Okay, for example, John is taller than I am by a couple inches because I'm shrinking. He is too, but I think I don't know. He's on an inversion table every night, like a bat. But in any case, he is just about a little bit taller than me, but he rides a frame shorter than I do. So in the seat post, I've worked on several of his bikes. I get on his bike to go test ride. I'm like, man, what is this, a clown? You're taller than I am, and why is your seat so low? Well, he has a super long torso. Nothing too abnormal, but longer. And then I have a short torso, nothing too abnormal, but shorter. I have longer legs. So that 58, one is not going to fit us, and the other, and one may within a bike frame. Well, what they did is they have two like a tall and long kind of thing, which one geometry frame is going to fit one of us better. And then you can contact them directly, which they're going to be very open to talking about their bikes and how it's fit you. And they're like, oh, do you have a spec sheet from your fitting? You send that over to them like, oh, this is going to be the best frame for you. Because they're the expert of their own component or their own frame and how it fits in geometry. That's the trick. So when you can actually, you can contact Trek, but how many layers of the onion until you get to the person that really knows what the hell they're talking about? Not to say they all do. I'm sure they do. No, absolutely not. But in any case, but yeah, it's one of those things where if you can get that fit and that fit on the bike and some minor adjustments, game changer. And then you have that wrap sheet. So you want to go get a different frame from a different company and have a different custom build. You're good to go. And they also usually, most of them, not all, but most of them will have a follow-up. So you get that fit done, you go grab that bike, then you bring your bike in and they double check it. And it doesn't sometimes it won't cost you anymore. It's just the same with the original. And they're like, hey, this is solid. And get you maybe a couple tweaks and adjustments, and bam, you are having the best experience possible on the bike. And bikes are supposed to be fun. Therefore, fit is first. In any case, there's a lot of different materials out there. Carbon's not the only one. They make it sound like it's the best and greatest thing. It is cool, but for the rest of us, that are the other 98% of the cycling people, of the small 10% market that they're trying to shoot for, they actually give a damn on what they're riding. Steel is real, man. Give me a nice chromoly frame any day, or a titanium as if you have the budget. Titanium has more, closer properties of carbon, more absorbent and so forth, less corrosion, things like this. I'm looking at this bike, and there should have been a lot more titanium or stainless steel bits on this, considering where close to ocean it is. And it's like everything. The frame obviously is carbon, that's going to be affected whatsoever. But like the springs on the derailleurs from Shimano, they're rusting. Those should be stainless steel, especially on Ultegra. I question things, and the bolts of, the Easton, they use aluminum, which is non-corrosive, but it does something else, oxidizes or whatever. Maybe I could be wrong. I'm not a scientist, but my wife is. But if you put some titanium bolts on there, which is probably not that much more expensive, then you wouldn't have no problem whatsoever. Even the bolts that pinned in to hold the shifter, the shifter lever here, they're corroding on the outside. It's just crazy. So anyway, back to another point, why are bikes so damn expensive? Why are they, all that? It's like, well, you got that. I talked about the frames and so forth, and so many layers of the onion before that bike gets to your hands. Those layers are reduced drastically if you go custom. So Fairlight, they deal with Reynolds, and they deal with somebody putting that frame together and paint it and put back. So it's like four layers of the onion versus 10 or 12. So that brings, yeah, they are expensive-ish, but relatively, when you look at that as to a Trek frame, not to say those who are pity pinchers, which is fine. If you see a Trek frame on sale and you're like, that's it, all power to you. But make sure the fit is right. So that's where it comes down to. I couldn't ride Treks for the longest time because the geometry just didn't fit me. And we were a Trek dealer, so it was really hard. But I got on a Mongoose back in the day when Mongoose was still Mongoose. And it had Ritchie tubing, steel tubing, which was the first time I was on a steel bike that actually was decent. And I built it up and I rode it, same trails that I rode that Trek that I had. And it was a night-day difference, like completely different ride. I finally got it nailed down. This is before they figured out fitting and all that. It was like a trial and error, like, my God, this thing rides like a rocket. And the thing is it was more of the geometry and the kind of the properties of steel, but more of the geometry on the bike than it was that. So, get back, again, it goes back to the fit first. And one frame, you may be like, oh, well, one is specialized, I love specialized, everything was specialized. But if it doesn't fit you, it's still not going to work yet. So you may have to go a different route, in any case. And why are they expensive? I don't know. You'd think, are these being built by Rolex jewelers putting these shifters together or something? I don't know. Like diamond studs inside here, or, why? A lot of it they're trying to pay off all of the product R&D development of it. That's a whole nother layer of expense. They're trying to keep the CEOs to not, totally freak out. They're trying to keep a lot of people employed, but we're in very uncertain times, so a lot of this stuff is going to shake down. But anyway, it's just, I'm just at a, I think prices should go down, but with inflation and the cost of things going up because of everything, I don't think you're going to see any prices reducing, at least the MSRP. You'll see things on sale because they built too much or something and got to dump it. But it's kind of like that price is just going to stay the same, unfortunately. Where that price, even though it's more expensive at your local bike shop, they are making less money, which is painfully true. So your local bike shops are working with all these challenges and trying to juggle all this. So don't walk in there and be all totally, especially independent ones, don't be all bent out of shape because the prices are so high. Because they are feeling the effects more than you think. The less pain are the companies right now that are feeling the most desperate is where the manufacturing layer, because the orders are not coming in. They're not building as much. So they're going to be, that part needs to drop, and then they're going to undercut each other. So yeah, you'll see drop in costs of building something, but the profit's going to be absorbed before it gets to your independent bike dealer into the manufacturer company ownership. In any case, it's very complex. That's why we'd be talking about it for 2 hours, right? That's why it's just, and more power to them, bring bikes and fun and enjoyment to our communities and so forth, and try to be safe out there and all that kind of thing. So yeah, that's, could it be cheaper? Probably. People, but it is for-profit companies, all of them, all those layers, reminded to me by Mr. Bradley. And like, yeah, it's true. They're not here to make a charity bike. They're here to make, a profit and make more cool stuff. And by doing that, they got to keep going. But unfortunately, Campagnolo, at the beginning of the top of the conversation, where they're struggling, they have to do readjustments, have to cut some people, 40% of their staff is huge. And I can guarantee you, every company has pretty much done some cuts of some sort. Not probably the magnitude of like Amazon by any means. I may have replaced some jobs, but not all of them. And we're not even close to that yet. But when looking at, skilled labor, that adds, uncertainty to it. And I think my wife brought up some interesting, ironic, painful piece is why is Gen Z is not buying anything right now. Like they're seeing a huge decline of spending in Generation Z. Why is that? And they can't understand that you just laid them all off. They're the new coming generation going into all the tech companies. They are part of the 4,000, 7,000 of Amazon that got let go. So of course, they're not going to be buying anything because they no longer have a job or can't find a job. So it's just, baffling. Like, oh, why are they not, and of course, they don't have anything. They don't have any lucrative income or anything. They're not going to be buying the bikes. Nope. You, on the other hand, and my demographics is between 35 to 65 on my channel. You're the ones that will be buying bikes and parts and ride and do stuff because that generation is either going to be buying them at Goodwill or Walmart, and granted, they're going to do what they can, but they're there, and it's undercutting the whole. Add that to a whole layer of uncertainty, so in case, not to be a Debbie Downer, but let's try to leave this on a high note. Sunny today. It's not below zero. Well, in Canadians' terms, it is below 0 Celsius. I think our high is in the 40s, which is, I don't know what the conversion is for Celsius, but warmer than 0. But in any case, you got me. You got guys like me and gals like me in the industry that do this for a passion, like working on bikes and taking our time and, try to give you the best experience possible out there riding and out there and kind of thing. And, oh, it's -6 here. Joe. Oh, it's almost too warm, huh? What'd you do? Put on your wool underwear already for the season? Oh, chilly. Oh yeah, check out Joe Channel's channel. He has a YouTube channel. It's fun. It's just, it's probably the same kind of people that like watching my stuff. It's like, it's not overly polished. It's not even, any of that kind of stuff. It's just downright people doing people things and being with people experiences, like the real world of Joe in Canada doing bike stuff that makes paddles for, I think that's your primary job, is do paddles, which woodworking, which is a beautiful art in itself. Oh, nice. Yeah, go out there. I might explore that today, depending on my time on this guy here. I might do a ride myself. It's just a little layer. For me, I need to be above freezing. I do have an underlying asthma. I wouldn't say condition, but it triggers asthma in me if it's under the freezing period. So for me, it's better to stay a little bit warmer temperature. So if it does get in the 40s here in where I'm at, I might be able. And also wind. That's another thing. And we do get a lot of sun here, so on a cold day, like it's like 40 degrees, no wind and sunny, it's still fine. Just a couple layers and a couple parts of you'll be cold, but not all of them. You can bear like 10, 15 miles and be like, okay, let's go warm up a little bit, get some coffee, and then turn around and head back. Speaking of coffee, mine's gone cold. Ah, yeah. Oh, so John, yeah, I think the Made Show is awesome. I want to go there. I need to see if I can fit that in my schedule for next year, and hopefully I make enough of the AdSense to affiliate money to support going out there, because I'd love to go out there. I've seen some other influencers do that. A Pathless Pedal Party Pace guy. He has like 200 plus thousand subs. Um, cool guy. Seems like a cool guy. I haven't met him in person, but it seems like a cool guy. He's basically went full time social media, and now he's sold everything in the States and moved. Him and his wife moved to Spain, Portugal area. So he's been doing videos there. So, but he flew back to the States for the Made Show, and I watched that piece, which was very intriguing, and a couple others. But the funny thing was they were talking about when they came back. They were like completely baffled on how much everything's gotten expensive here since they've been gone for the last couple of years. Like, yeah, it's gone bad. Some areas got real bad. I mean, some of us just really haven't noticed, but if you really think about it, and you really price comparison for like a year ago, and you're like, that is more expensive. I mean, for me, coffee, a couple bucks at least, 20%, 25% more increase there. We need to make a deal with those Colombians because, I don't take their Coke, but I definitely drink their caffeine from not cocoa plants. It's just a coffee plant. the other C, coffee. I'll save cocaine when I get really old. I'm just kidding. Just totally kidding. No, I would not. No, I would die. I would totally die. But in any case, yeah, it's one of those crazy things. Let's see here. Regular username name. That's a great name for a username. Thank you for can't agree more. Oh, new Ultegra or 6000 or older? I like the Di2. I mean, I don't have anything negative per se about Di2. It works good. I like the auto trim factor, and you can set it to different things. But there's a cost level to it. I would say for electronic shifting, if I was going to get electronic shifting, it'd be more on the road gravel perspective versus the mountain. Because, yeah, it's cool on mountain, but man, you whack that derailleur and then it costs you $600. I mean, that's one thing. Road bikes are less, I wouldn't say dainty, but there's less chance of them getting damaged. So I don't mind the Di2. I think it'd be kind of cool. I like the concept of the SRAM batteries for each unit, so you don't have any cables anywhere, but Shimano's not quite there yet. I think they're coming down with that at some point. But honestly, I'm still a me power, and if the cable routing is not too crazy internal for that particular bike, yeah, cable actuated shifting, cantilever brakes versus disc, fine, all day long, not a problem. And again, it fits and works for 98% of us, just fine. Disc brakes are nice if you're in contaminants or higher speeds or adjusting those. Or if you want wheel or tire variants of larger wheels for gravel, that's where it's a point. But you can still have cable actuated. They still make really good, like I think Tektro and one of those other brands make like a hydraulic piston, but it's cable actuated disc brake system. Those seem to work really well and be more, just fine for that kind of property. So I don't think you have to go the full Di2 route. And the cost of it, the 6600 or earlier, the stuff is made solid. It works well. You cleaned up right, proper. You can get this stuff to work really well and last you a long time. And here's the thing. A lot of the industry has gone by this one-buy thing, which is, for me, not a thing. I'm more of a traditional, so I want at least 2 gears up front, if not 3. Triples are really nice. I live in Colorado. We have freaking mountains. It's like, I don't care how many 13 gears in the back range. It's still going to be clunky, and you're not going to get the gear range that you want or the perfect. So that's where you have that double. You can really fine tune your ride and be more enjoyable, in my perspective, of finding that first one. So you're not overpowering or underpowering that particular cog. So to get technical on it. So for me and my kind of riding, what I like, the older the better. I like them aged. Like fine wine. Maybe, depending. Oh, for the rusted springs, older versus newer. Um, I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know what technically the properties of what steels, springs that they're using, if it's stainless or not, even on the older stuff. But it seemed like the older stuff has less corrosion, but I think they all have a corroding issue. But anyway, for the cost of replacement, the used older will be cheaper, even if it's like a 6600 rear derailleur, lightly used is still going to only cost you like $50. A Di2 RX rear derailleur, which I'm looking at right now, that damn thing is probably like $300 to $400, if not more. And will the spring break at some point? Sure, but they're tucked away. You don't really see it, but you know it's there. That's the problem. You know it's there. Yeah, and Walker Bikes shop is the point. It's like they've gotten overcomplicated, and they're following the auto industry on that, and they are not like, they're like, yep, we sure did. It's like, and us mechanics have been around for a while, like, man, why it doesn't need to be this complicated. It does not need to be this complicated, but they have complicated the living hell out of it, and yeah, then we have to charge more. Well, yeah, you get the labor rate out of it, but we can do a lot of other things to offset that and less complication. Yeah, you can really get it down to doing the internal cable routing on side. This one's not too bad. I mean, I could probably figure this out without too much complication. But some of those are just, my goodness, why? There is no reason why to go that crazy. In any case, we're at the top of the hour. I need to go do some lunch and then finish wrapping this up and possibly sneak out for a ride myself. So I'll do some shout outs here for those who have been watching. YouTube Stabworthy, which was the first one that chimed in. I do not know what the heck you were talking about there. Is it a rhyme? Walker Bikes Shop 8632. Thank you for chiming in. And I had several repeats from Rena Costro 6401. Thank you for hanging out and watching. John Nolden, thank you. From Minnesota. Joe O Channels, thank you. From the Great White North, called Canada. And Vital Bike Chains, thanks, bud. We'll be talking to you hopefully later this week. I'll give you my time. We can chat. We're going to talk about chain tools and make a video on it. Johnny, the bike guy, Salt Lake City, thank you for chiming in. Appreciate it. Hopefully that guy found you. Hopefully I found the right website. It was a pretty simple website, I think. So, in any case, Walker Bike Shop again. Thanks again. Yeah, and, GPAS. I think you're in New York. Thanks for chiming in. Let me know where, I guess I can just Google your shop. I think it's somewhere in New York. See if I'm going to be close to your neck of the woods. Yeah, and Plunkett. I'm sorry, I'm butchering that. 3744, thank you for chiming in. Yeah, I'm all about the me bike. And Greg, Groro, thank you for chiming in. I appreciate it. Who else do we have here? Give you all the thanks and appreciations for all those who joined me. And regular username name. That's great. That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. Any case, well, again, if you like content like this, hopefully you enjoyed hanging out and some little tech tips. Talked about the 3 bullets recap. Talked about Campagnolo. Talked about e-bikes and how popular they are in New York and why are bikes so damn high. Hopefully we got some conclusions or conversations talking about in your shop or in your communities, cycling communities and so forth. And if it's Tuesday, it's Shop Talk Tuesday. And again, if you like this content, click the like and subscribe and keep the conversation going. Put it in the comments below and so forth. And again, thank you so much for hanging out with me in the garage. And yeah, I need to get this bad boy together. Apparently this individual, well, he has a moot, so he's going to swap that out when this one gets picked up and do a refresher tune on it. Then he has a 22. And I was like, a 22? And it turns out a 22 is the periodical table number of titanium, which is a company that makes titanium frames, 22. It's a niche line in England, I think, or Europe. So hopefully I'll see that sometime in January or February and get my little grubby mechanic hands all over it. And I'll have to clean off the drool as I'm looking at that bike. Any case, thanks again for hanging out with me, and I hope it's great in your neck of the woods. If it is, please go for a ride. Check out links below for companies I'm affiliated with. Bicycle Wheel Warehouse, shout out to them. They got me a nice set of wheel set that I'm going to be doing a Klein Adept race on this week, so hopefully there will be videos coming out there. I'll have generated more content with Vital Bike Chains. He's out in Florida. He does pre-waxing of chains, of brand new chains, also a waxing service as well. So if you're looking for high performance blends and so forth, he's got you covered, literally with wax. Then yeah, you know, if you do shop on Amazon, like a lot of us do, I do have links below. Just follow, start there. Whatever you end up buying, either from what I have suggested or whatever your cookie trail goes for 24 hours, I get a little kick, you get something, I get something. And again, everybody wins. Thanks again for hanging out with me. And yeah, throw some comments below. Tell me what you don't like. Tell me what you do like. Oh yeah, the NBDA, I will put a link in the description after I have this below. The podcast that I saw today was pretty interesting. Just put it in the background, it's about an hour long. Get some intriguing thoughts for some other very knowledgeable people in the cycling industry from different perspectives. So pretty cool. Any case, lots of good things ahead. It is actually going to be a positive Christmas. Got some good repairs, got some great bikes to work on. I'm doing just fine. My next season should be pretty okay, considering that I'm kind of resistant to what's going on. Ish. I say that very lightly and knock on a lot of wood. But anyway, we should be continuing these conversations and going forward. I do have another live on Friday called Freak Out Friday, or Friday Freak Out. I always get those flipped. Just kind of snapshot before going into the weekend and just whatever's going on top of my head. So those are kind of fun too. And again, have a wonderful day. Thank you all for joining in. Oh yeah, I gotta play with these, sound effects. You guys did great. You did great. You did great. Did great. Oh wait. Brought to you by Medem Bikes, where you can find bicycles that won't break the bank. Great brands like Univega and Vin Diesel, but give you a good quality, safe ride to be able to do those extended rides and get into cycling. You'll find a link below with added savings to extend that adventure starting now. Oh, where'd it go? Lost it. Totally lost it. There we go. Do a little cleanup. Oh. Do a little cleanup. Oh boy. Boy, oh boy, oh boy.